Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the first Southern Shores Town Council meeting of the new year, 2023. It's January the 3rd. Glad you all are with us this evening. If you could please stand now and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. If we could all just take a minute for a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Council, I would like to make a motion that we make a small amendment to the agenda tonight to include a presentation by Dr. Lisa Colvin and Kelly Flock, who are from the Kitty Hawk Elementary School. And I would like for them to do their presentation after we go through the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
We have an amended agenda. Can I have a motion to approve our amended agenda?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We have an approved amended agenda. Thank you. Our next item of business is the consent agenda, which includes the minutes from the December 6th meeting and the minutes from our special meeting on November the 15th, as well as a surplus resolution information on page 2 in your books, Council. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
And in a second,
Second.
any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Carries. Okay, so now we're going to give a few minutes of our meeting time to Dr. Lisa Colvin, who is the principal of Kitty Hawk Elementary School, and her friend Kelly Flock. Good evening, ladies. Welcome. And if you can, it's at some point when you start to speak into the microphone so we can get it all recorded. That would be great. You be the clicker.
The clicker, okay. Good evening. I am Lisa Colvin, the principal of Kitty Hawk Elementary School, and this is Kelly Flock, a local physician's assistant and in our local community and a parent of a student in our school with special needs. Thank you for allowing us to share our vision for a project that we believe will benefit not only the students of Kitty Hawk Elementary School, but the surrounding communities as well. So let's start with our story.
So I'll talk to you a little bit about this story. It's a pretty simple concept that brought this to light, but this is Nola, my daughter, who has cerebral palsy, and her friend Penny. And when they were in kindergarten together at Kitty Hawk Elementary, the two of them could not play together. And that really got both of them upset. And they came to their moms and said, why can't we play together? How do we make this happen? And for kindergarten students to do that is pretty amazing. And so that kind of launched our thought of, yeah, they should be able to play together, and so should any kid. And so the pandemic threatened to squash this project a little bit, but thankfully we were able to develop some more momentum over the last year or two, and we're now moving forward. But the goal is that basically no child or individual in our community should have to worry about the barriers of a conventional playground stopping them from being together.
So our vision is to provide a place where individuals from our school and community can bring children to play without having to worry about any of the barriers that conventional playgrounds present, to see children playing with their friends, parents, grandparents that may have mobility limitations, coming to the playground and being able for the children to be able to play with each other. We envision our community showing other communities that we want to provide an inclusive, accessible environment and hopefully inspire other communities to do the same. Our vision in the far future is that our children will grow up and that inclusive, accessible communities and environments will be the norm, not the exception. So moving in the right direction, what we started with Kelly and her friend coming to Dr. Florence, who was the principal at the time, with this idea. At the same time, we started thinking more about inclusivity with communication. We got a grant from our local Walmart for $1,000 to create a communication board where students with limited verbal ability could communicate with the adults and with other children. And our vision was to teach the children who could speak to learn the language that is on these communication boards. This story hit the internet, went viral, and corporate Walmart called me up and said, "We love your idea of including students, having students play with each other as much as possible despite their differences. So we want to give you $30,000. About the Dare County Schools recognized that our playground, along with 2 other playgrounds in Dare County School, needed our equipment upgraded, and so they budgeted $90,000, which they have allowed us to table, and because we have an even bigger vision. So that got the ball rolling. Actually, Dr. Florence and I looked at each other when both of these monies were available at the same time and said, "There's our seed money for the project."
Okay. I'm going to talk a little bit about the challenges so everyone can understand why this is important. This is not only challenges with our current playground space, but also community resources. The surfacing right now of our entire playground is not accessible by any means for students with mobility issues. It's a combination of sand and mulch. We've had some upgrades with drainage over the years, but the mulch still washes away. And let's be honest, even on mulch's best day, it is not the most wheelchair or walker friendly, or even honestly walking sometimes friendly. And so there's numerous measures in place right now, which we'll show you a picture of in a second, to kind of provide access, rubber mats or mats ramping to different areas, but that kind of makes a spotty, broken up play surface. Equipment is a bit old and has, again, limited accessibility. So there's only 2 adaptive swings. Those are in the center, smaller, younger kid playground, and there's none on the bigger playground. So we also don't have a universally designed play space in the northern beaches. The town of Nags Head, I believe they have Dowdy Park, Whalebone Park, kind of on the southern beaches where there are adaptive, inclusive play surfaces and equipment. Visitors coming into the town that have anyone with not just mobility issues, but just anybody that's looking for a place that's a little bit more accessible. We don't have that to offer. So that's also important. Where's the boards? Oh, the boards. Yes, we will put the boards. Okay.
So just to give you an idea of some of the challenges, I didn't put that puddle there. That just happened to be a rainy day, the day that I thought I should snap some pictures. But the picture on the left is one of the ramps that is in the playground. It is rubber. Every time it rains, the sand shifts, and so we have to go out and fix it. And that is how Nola and some of her other friends on wheels can actually get to the playground, but the rest of the playground is mulch. And you can see just from the other pictures why Dare County Schools identified our equipment. While it is still safe, it's very outdated, it's not accessible, and there's better playground equipment available that we hope to purchase.
So to kind of talk about solutions, the solid surfacing is what we're primarily hoping to start with, and this would cover all of the playground areas, the center playground, which is area 1 for future reference, and then the larger playground area 3 through 5 is areas 2 and 3. This ensures complete accessibility to all parts of the playground spaces for anybody with mobility challenges, and it actually will hold up better over time and require less year-to-year maintenance. Better equipment and layout, there's tons. If you ever look at playground equipment, you will go down a rabbit hole. There are tons of different things that you can get out there, but ideally we would have equipment that's accessible to individuals of varying physical abilities, but then also equipment designed to cater to those that might have cognitive, intellectual disabilities or sensory challenges, such as children with autism, and then adults as well. And then creating a layout that is going to be thoughtfully designed to encourage that inclusivity. So children, adults, everybody being able to play together without having to worry about whether they can be on the same area or in the same place.
So we've met with an approved vendor, Game Time, who is approved by Dare County Schools done lots and lots of throwing out ideas, planning. We want to match the original footprint of both playgrounds, so we have a couple of boards that the artists have rendered. They took some artistic challenges. There's no trees. This is the center playground. This is phase one. And this is the area closest to the classroom where NOLA and some of the children currently on wheels are. But if you have any questions about some of our ideas, feel free to email me, call me. But right now, you can see there's 2 adaptive swings that we've moved towards the middle. There is some ramping. There's a lot of things that children on 2 legs and children on wheels can play together in this playground. The surfacing is very similar to what's used at Dowdy Park, but we decided not to use paths because on the playground, we have generally 100 children at a time, maybe 60 to 100 children at a time. And they run all over the place. They play tag. Why can't they play tag with the children on wheels or whatever else it is they're playing? Why do they have to be limited to the paths and everybody else can run wherever they want? So we decided, and it's also more stable with the sand underneath. There's lots of technical things that are above my expertise on how they keep the surfacing steady, but we have been advised that making a larger surface is a lot more stable over the long run. This is what we envision for the second playground. Once we raise the funds for the first playground, we can start moving towards building it and continue to raise funds for the second playground. The second playground is for our older children, grades 3 through 5, and it includes, you can see that the equipment on the left is fully ramped. There are adaptive swings there in our vision. There are not now. And my favorite is the net. And so this net, there's something similar, I've been told, at Wellbone Park, but it's a net that children can climb over, climb under, and they're very strong ropes. And there's a ramp underneath that children can either run on like a path, or if you're on wheels, I saw this video, and if you're sitting in a wheelchair, you can grab the ropes and climb up with your arms. So it's a really cool feature. So how are we going to pay for this all? The current funds in place are $120,000. We did start fundraising on New Year's Eve, and in one night we raised $12,000 so far. We already have the Walmart, Dare County Schools, and we want to stage the fundraising. So phase one, the estimate is $316,000. As soon as we have that money, $316,000, I'm allowed to order the equipment and get the ball rolling for that playground. I cannot order anything until we have all of that money. And then phase two, we can continue raising. That is considerably more expensive. It has more equipment, as you saw, and it's a larger surface. The estimate right now is $489,000. 3 years ago, when we started this project, of course, the costs were less, and you and I know that everything costs more right now, but we believe that we can do it. PTA will manage the donations. They are an established nonprofit organization, but we're also working on grant sources. I already have some parents who are working on grants, already have some community donors, and there are people out of state who have been involved in a similar project that want to help fund our project as well. The www.khesplayground.com is our website. Feel free to look at it. I'll just show you what it looks like without going through the whole thing. It has the story that we've just told you and some of the plans, a donation button. We are looking into a donation site that takes very little to none. Right now, the donation site that our PTA uses takes a small percentage. We're looking into cutting that cost as well. Now, how do I go back? Okay. Yeah.
So why are we here tonight? You might be wondering. So one of our goals with this whole project is we are trying to technically do this as correctly as possible, and we've been in close communication with the director of facilities for Dare County Schools. We're trying to make sure we're adhering to everything. We want to make sure we are working closely with the town of Southern Shores, because this is not only going to be something that is in your community, but for your community. And so we're here tonight in hopes that we can get your support and also your guidance as we go forward with how we can work together to make sure that we're meeting our community's needs the best. Currently in the works, we're also researching and working with some other community members to obtain projections of maintenance costs and how that is going to be worked into budgeting and ensuring that that's covered. And I assure you there are ways to do it because other communities are doing it. We're a pretty smart community. I think we can definitely figure it out. So our hopes are that we are breaking ground on phase 1 by the end of this year. That could be much sooner depending on the outcome of our fundraising efforts. So that is pretty much all. If you guys have questions, we're here for it. And we have large boards if you'd like to.
Yeah, go ahead. What the setup was going to be like, but we brought our own.
Have you approached the Community Foundation for assistance?
So we have not moved to that quite yet. We did kind of a soft launch of fundraising after we got our initial seed money, and we looked and waited to see if we were going to have the interest, not only of community members in general, but also be able to do it school board wise. And we're hoping for, once we get the blessing of our town as well, that we can move forward to that. But we've already had community members from organizations such as the Visitors Bureau and many
Yeah,
other
I'm
bigger
on
ones
that.
asking us how to, can we be of help? Can we, how do we donate? What should we do? What should we be looking for? So our next step, once we kind of have all our ducks in a row and make sure that we're following all the rules and regulations we need to do, is that we've got a list and we're going to start going out to them and kind of speaking to them.
You might want to make this presentation to the Tourism Visitors Bureau group,
Yes, so my list.
because of the way the funding goes, you got to be ahead of the schedule a little bit. But
Yeah.
contact Lee or Amy to get on the program, because I think that will give you a broader group of people
Absolutely.
that's in the county here and would understand what you're trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be wonderful.
Well, I, for one, think this is a great idea.
Yeah,
I think it'd be a
absolutely.
huge asset to our community, not just the northern beaches, but the entire Dare County. I guess I was just curious, is Dare County going to be more supportive in terms of funding? Are you going to go back to them for,
The school.
well, no,
Not
Dare
county,
County supporting you with more funding?
So I don't
Versus
think
the
we've
school.
even,
We, so what slowed us down besides the pandemic was that once we got back into this, I had to explain it to everybody in central office because they're all different from who they were a few years ago. But we're planning on talking to several towns. Obviously, we're in Southern Shores, but this could impact our neighboring towns. And I've started to talk to the mayors there. And we can present it to Dare County also to see, because they do fund Dare County schools. Knowing what that's used for is way above my pay grade, and I hope it stays that way.
Yeah.
But yes, that's a good idea,
Well,
because
and-
it is in Dare County. I think it would benefit Dare County. I can see this projecting into the future, that tourists, they know where Dowdy Park
Absolutely.
is. They know where Jeanette's Pier is. They know where the ramped beaches are.
Right.
Why shouldn't they know where the ramped playgrounds are?
Exactly. Well, for sure, one thing I can think of off the top of my head is we can help you out with spreading the website address. We have ways of getting that out into our community, and we can for sure do that as a
Thank you.
first step.
Yeah, and the other thing is, Dare County has the educational network and do the videos, and we go once a month, we meet there and approve the spending on the video equipment that even in here, and it's all part of that.
is that right?
We can suggest that to them. It's over
Yeah,
in Manny, we can, at the courthouse.
Mhm.
We can talk to them.
We
I
had
got a
talked
meeting
about
coming up
that.
there. Huh?
Is that Benny Baldwin that does the?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had
Did you
actually
talk to
talked
her?
about that. Well, we
Okay.
haven't talked to him yet, but that was one of our ideas.
Yeah.
Because I think that would be
Current-
very
what's it
impactful.
called?
It's I never can understand it. Sheila knows what it is. The TV network. that-
GovEd?
Huh?
GovEd
GovEd.
channel,
GovEd.
GovEd.
GovEd
Yeah.
education.
Yeah.
So-
another good communication tool.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, and those videos are well done, and they're looking for projects like this, and you're right, she's involved with that, but these executive director. We have a meeting next week. Matt, yeah.
Yeah.
Brad. Yeah, Brad. So,
Okay.
okay, yeah, we can talk
Thank
to
you.
them too. To get the word out so that it would,
That would be wonderful.
Yes.
Would a formal resolution from the town council be at all helpful to you in your fundraising efforts?
I think that would be,
I think it
yes,
would be great.
I do.
We're good at resolutions. Not just at the new year either. We'll do them no matter what the month
We do
is.
'em
So
year-round.
we'll get that done at our next meeting
see if they carry
and get
away.
That would be
get the
great.
wording out there. Well, thank you
Thank you.
very much for coming to see
Wonderful.
us and for letting us know about this great project. And we hope to be your partner going forward. And we hope it's a huge success.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, ladies. We really appreciate it. Next, we have our staff reports. We'll start out with our Deputy Town Manager and Planning Director, Mr. Wes Haskett. Good evening, Wes.
Thank you. Good evening. Happy New Year, Mayor, members of council. Tonight, reporting for December permits and a couple other things. There were a total of 34 permits issued in the month of December. Those consisted of 7 zoning permits, 5 lot disturbance stormwater management permits, 13 building permits. 2 of those were for new construction, new single-family dwellings. And then there were also 9 trade permits. With respect to fees in December, we issued or collected rather $11,406.80. With respect to our land use plan update, the survey is still open, still on the town website, and it will close on January 8th. We had 341 responses on December 22nd, and we have 354 responses as of today. So we're at 354 where we were earlier this afternoon. So please, anyone who's listening or in attendance, please take a few minutes to complete the survey if you haven't already. We're going to try to spread the word, do one more push before it closes by asking the SSCA and CPOA to share with their memberships again. They did do that for us when it first opened. And then we'll also do another special town newsletter like we did when it opened, just for that. With respect to the planning board, they're going to meet here in the Pitts Center on January 18th at 5 o'clock. Note that January 18th is a Wednesday due to the holiday that week. The purpose of the meeting is for them to continue discussion of potential commercial design standards. And they may also consider ZTA, the first one of 2023-2301, which would be another 160D related text amendment that would be to amend our definitions in the definitions section of the zoning ordinance. Any questions?
No, I don't have any.
In the January 8th for the land use plan surveys, that's a hard date, our consultant does not want to move off of that date?
Yes, ma'am. That's my understanding.
Okay.
Is that a good return?
Um,
Talk to them, is that a good return in relation to anything else?
They haven't really said one way or the other. So I'm not sure what their thoughts are on that.
Well, I would certainly like to take this opportunity to encourage anyone who hasn't done it already, if you're listening, please figure out a way to access the link to participate in the survey.
It's an easy survey. It's
It
not-
doesn't take but just a few minutes. So I would love for that number to get higher before January the 8th. So thanks,
ma'am.
Wes. How's Marshall's coming along?
Coming along well. I didn't ask the building inspector today how much they had done over the holiday. I think at the last meeting I reported that they had done the slab. So I'm not sure what progress they've made since then.
Today, I was over there, not for that, but they were unloading the wall board for the interior.
Okay. It's, he did say that they are moving. They're moving along pretty
Moving
well.
along, making progress.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Anybody else have any questions for Wes? Thank you, sir, very much. Appreciate
Yes,
it.
ma'am. You're welcome.
We'll hear now from our police chief, Chief Cole. Good evening, David.
Evening, Mayor, members of council. The Police Department report for December 2022. As you can see, we had 1,515 calls for service. That's approximately 165 less than we had last year at this time. And a lot of that is because a lot of the houses are not vacant anymore. People decided to move into them. So we have less houses to check. As you can see, the breakdown of incidents, which are actually the crimes that have been reported, we had 12 of those. One was an assault, damage to property. We had 10 that were drug-related, 4 related to drug equipment, 1 weapons, which was drug-related. When we made one of the drug arrests, one of the individuals had a firearm that he wasn't supposed to have. We had a DWI, driving while intoxicated, 1 underage alcohol, 2 traffic. We had 2 canine callouts, where the canine for located drugs for a couple of vehicle stops. For a total of 26 total offenses out of those 12 incidents. We had 8 criminal arrests. As you can see, 1 for the assault, 1 for the damage to property, 9 for the drugs, 3 for the drug equipment, 1 on the weapons charge, and the driving while intoxicated, as well as the alcohol and the traffic. And then we had 1 service. We served a warrant for another agency for a total of 20 charges. Officers conducted 52 traffic stops for December. They issued 7 written citations for a total of 9 charges. They handed out another 38 warning citations for a total of 41 charges. We had 2 ordinance violations, and we had 3 reportable motor vehicle accidents for the month of December. Questions, concerns?
This is an observation. I've been reading in the last couple of weeks, the incidence of children 6 and under being impacted with drugs that the parents are taking, anywhere from fentanyl to marijuana. Have you seen any of that happening here, or can you tell me?
None that I'm aware of, not in Southern Shores.
No.
I can't speak for the rest of the
Yeah,
county.
it's amazing, the younger ones, like 2, 3, 4, it looks like a candy, for them to identify stuff that put it in their mouth. And there's some that, the articles I've been reading, some have lost their lives.
Yeah, one of the problems you have, and we've had 2 or 3 officers that have been brought, not we here, but just up north of us in Virginia, that have been brought back to life because all you got to do is touch the fentanyl. And there's a lot of fentanyl down here. So it doesn't even have to be something that looks good. They could just touch something that's already been contaminated with it. And it's pretty potent and pretty damaging.
I know I've asked this before. This looks like a little uptick in the drug incidents and arrests. Are the drugs and drug paraphernalia remaining about the same that you've seen before, or are you getting different?
It's a little bit of an uptick. And what's amazing is when the officers make the arrest, some of them anyway, some of these were some pretty hard drugs. Some of it's marijuana, and they just look at the officers like, you can't arrest me. Well, in Virginia, it's legal. It's not legal in North Carolina. Probably will be, unfortunately, sooner than later. But yes, we've seen a little bit more of an uptick, to be honest with you.
And is it local or coming from other counties?
Some is local, but probably, I'm going to say 65, 70% of it is coming from over the bridge.
Just one, this has nothing to do with, is North Carolina one of the states where you can openly carry without a permit?
That's correct.
That's what I thought.
Yep.
26 states.
First day I started here, I saw a gentleman pack, and I went, because I'm from New York, and I was like, dang. But yeah, it's
Well,
legal.
Yeah, it's one of the states, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's,
It is, which is fine. I have no
Yeah.
problem with that. In New York, it was almost impossible to even get a pistol permit, let alone a concealed, and it was unheard of. Even though when I was a kid, you'd throw your rifle in the back of the pickup truck
Yep.
and you'd go hunting after school.
Well, where Leo grew up, they carried them on their hip too.
There you go. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, don't, let's not,
Yeah, as well, in Kansas.
Yeah.
I was surprised.
Yep, it's legal.
Okay.
Any other questions for Chief Cole?
No.
Thank you,
Thank
Chief.
you.
Appreciate
Thank
it so much. Appreciate all that your staff does for our town, keeping us safe. Next will be our fire chief, Chief Ed Limbacher. Good evening, Ed, and Happy New Year.
Good evening, council. Happy New Year to you as well. For the month of December, the fire department responded to 53 calls. And it's pretty simple. One building fire, which was on Jingite, which I will say was our first in-town lithium battery fire. So please be careful with those. We were able to mitigate that pretty much. Didn't have to strip the building out, so they had a good deal of construction going on over there now. But
He's still working.
yeah, he's pretty upset about it. But
Yeah.
it's easy for me to say it could always be worse, but that doesn't make people feel better. So, one dumpster fire, 35 EMS calls, one motor vehicle accident with injuries, one motor vehicle accident with a pedestrian, which was basically a guy hit with a bike, one with no injuries, one stalled elevator, 6 public service, one good intent, which was basically supposed to be a rescue call in Duck Woods, but it was just a guy walking his dog. Dispatch canceled en route 2 of those. 1 authorized burning and 2 alarms, again for 53. And that is just ahead of last year of 38. So pretty much works out pretty close every year. We're probably our second highest year since we've been keeping records. So I'll have that for you next month. Did anybody have any questions on that report? I did just want to touch briefly on the ordinance thing we had yesterday. I did advise Cliff, and obviously the police chief knew about it, but at 11:54 yesterday morning, a resident called the station and reported they had found an ordinance, what they thought was an unexploded ordinance. Myself and the deputy chief carry a book because there's a lot of training ordinances they used. And as soon as I got there, that's not normal for me, not one we'd normally see where I can just pick up and dispose of. We ended up calling the Department of Defense, which were very helpful. They responded and basically detonated it on scene. So we just secured the area, myself and Corporal Brickhouse were the first ones there. And I think they actually did the detonation about 5:30, 5:31. So uneventful, thank God, but just please be careful because those guys, as soon as they saw it, they were like, yeah, we'll be down. So they knew what they were looking at. So, and that's basically the aftermath of what happened. So maybe a 5-foot hole that they blew up. So
Do you have any idea about how the folks that found it? How did it?
they told me their kids were digging, but I'll stick with that.
Okay.
Next door neighbor had that.
I didn't bother touching it because I knew better. So I just say, if you find something like that, please don't touch it. So.
And it's true to say that basically the entire, or most of the footprint of our town is a former practice range
Absolutely. Yep.
from World War II, just like up in Duck.
Mhm.
And so there's entirely a good chance that these things are still out there.
Oh, yeah.
And
They are
so
definitely still
people
out
should
there.
definitely be aware.
Yep. Most of the time, it's the practice flares. You know, I said we have a book that's in both the chief and the deputy chief's cars. And it's usually the practice rounds, but you do come across this stuff. This is the first one I've actually had to explode. This is not a rare occurrence by any means, but it's not an everyday occurrence either. They just did one 2 weeks ago in Duck, and I think in Collington one they did one. So it's not a never, but it's not an always either.
I think our highest concentration, the last time I'd seen is more in that Spindrift, High Dune Loop.
Mhm. I've had 1 or 2 on Gravy Pond in my tenure here. So
Oh, really?
yeah.
Oh, wow.
So when a contractor is out there digging, are they paying attention or are they just?
I hope so. I don't know.
Yeah, I hope they are. They might. blow
If they're
it
not,
down.
we'll be finding the aftermath of it.
That's
So
not going to be good.
Interesting.
Thank you, Chief. Any other questions for Chief?
No, I just have one. I mean, I got a little heads up from Cliff, but I know some of my neighbors, because we did hear the boom. Is there any way to notify people in the area when something's going to be detonated? Because
well, I'm going
all
to be
sorts
honest
of
with you.
rumors went around.
I'm going to be honest with you right here. I'm more of low key, no draw guy, because the more people that know about that before it happens, it generates a bigger crowd and it's harder to control. I pretty much had myself, Corporal Brickhouse, Sergeant Brakely, all in unmarked cars. I wanted no marked units anywhere around there until just before it happened. I called, we had 16 guys on scene from the fire department, and we had a crew staffed at the fire department in case something happened. But I didn't want the fire trucks to attract attention
Gotcha.
until right before it happened. So they were only on scene maybe 40 minutes. And I would have been happier if it was 20 minutes. I wanted it to be as quick as soon as they pulled up, I wanted them to detonate it so we could get out of there. We did evacuate 250 feet and then 1,000 feet shelter in place. And we had the roads closed when they did it. But as far as putting it out on social media, I would not being disrespectful. I would totally be against that.
But the immediate neighborhood knew.
Yeah, the
about it.
immediate neighborhood was detonated or evacuated, and they made an all call right before they did the detonation. And myself, the fire department, and Sergeant Brinkley made a check from Ocean Boulevard, and we did from Spindrift, so we knew nobody was there. So
Right.
quite uneventful, but kind of a big undertaking to make it uneventful. So
Yeah. I agree.
We appreciate all the efforts. Thank you so much.
you're welcome.
Thanks for sharing the information, and we could all stand to, be educated and, be safe. Appreciate it.
I mean, I'll tell you, I didn't touch it, so what's that tell you?
Yeah. There you go.
Former mayor probably dropped some of them.
Next, we'll hear from our town manager, Cliff Ogburn. Good evening, Cliff.
Good evening. Just have one thing I wanted to update you on, and it's good news. We have a resolution with the beach nourishment project. We've worked it out with Weeks Marine, CPE, and Dare County so that when Weeks comes back in March to construct the duck project, they'll place 37,500 cubic yards of sand in the northern end of our project. The 37,500 is the amount of sand that's necessary to bring every station north of Fifth Avenue to 22 cubic yards a foot. It's important to know those stations, they mark those stations every 100 feet. And so on average, we met the 22 cubic yards, but if you looked at it on a station by station basis, a few of those stations fell short. There's no additional funds necessary to pay for that 37.5. It's all coming out of what's been budgeted for the total project. And I wanted to mention two things. The two goals that our project set out, and you all know this, there were two goals. One was South Fifth Avenue was to establish storm damage reduction to combat, to ready the beach for an Isabel-type hurricane. That was the section of town beach that was most vulnerable and susceptible to storm damage. The other was north of that area was to establish a usable beach. So we met the first goal, exceeded the first goal. The second goal again was met if you take into the accretion that occurred naturally, coupled with the sand that was put on the beach, then on average we met the 22 cubic yards. But again, a few of the stations fell short. It's important when to know that when these projects are designed, it's not a straight line that runs north and south up the beach and everybody gets filled to that line. The project is designed to meet the goals, and each one of those stations takes a different amount of sand to meet that goal or to meet that objective. We contracted for 894,500 cubic yards of sand, and we've got in excess of that. But as we've said, we've got all the sand we paid for. It just wasn't in those northern few stations that we felt it needed to be. And as everyone knows, we have a very, very dynamic beach, and this project was put out to bid in November of 21. And there was a lot of natural changes that occurred to the beach from May of 21 until the project was resurveyed in August of 22. So in November of 21, the Weeks bid on a project. August 22 comes along, it's resurveyed, and obviously things have changed. And our project didn't start until October 7th, and there were quite a bit of changes during that time. And that's what caused, there was some erosion in the southern end of town that in order to account for, they had to fill to that erosion and then start the project. And so that's what created us to be over in that area. The volume of sand that was lost in September, the pre-construction survey was done in August of 22. CPE redesigned the project, gave a new set of drawings to Weeks in September 15th. Again, we didn't start till October 7th. And there was a lot, we had a couple of nor'easters during that time, and there was some sand loss. And again, it took sand to catch us up, and that's why that was over. But again, at the end of the project, there was an analysis done that showed, regardless of any accretion in the northern end, we were short about 37,500 cubic yards to put a uniform density of 22 cubic yards a foot. So that's what Weeks will do when they come back. I wanted to show a few pictures. This was taken on November 22nd, the last day of the project. This is from Hillcrest looking north, and right up to the top of that picture, you can see the pipe as it's being dismantled, and at the top, you can see it looks like there's some pipe that's punched up. That's 13th Avenue. So that's the project completed all the way up to at least 13th Avenue, and we went 500 feet into the town of Duck from that picture. And then go to the next one. This is looking the other direction, same day. That's looking from right about the town of Duck, the northern end of town, looking south. That arrow is 13th Avenue. So you can see the work that was done that it was actually performed in that section of the beach on the last day. And I think that and then this is just another picture. I should have shown this first, but this was November 20th. This was actual work being done at Fifth Avenue. So these are the last 3 days of the project that encompasses the area that I'm talking about, where that 37,500 cubic yards will go back. Sand fence is going in now. The contractor who's putting in the sand fence is from Trout Run south to about the triangle, to about the split. They've put sand fence in there. Better Beaches has already had was it the coldest day of the year that y'all planted? It was cold. Versus today, they were planting in Kitty Hawk, and it was probably 30 or 40 degrees warmer today than it was then. But we're having the beach grass installed. Thank you very much for their help. They've gone from about the triangle up to about Porpoise. Halfway. We did about 500 feet. That's hard work, and especially this time of year. So thank you to them for doing that. And then finally, I just wanted to let everybody know how hard the mayor and the mayor pro tem both worked on making sure that we were made whole. They did a lot of heavy lifting on this. They carried a load. They made some points that resonated and got through to the people that needed to hear it. So I want to thank them. Thank you both for your help and assistance in making sure we got to a resolution on this. And it just occurred to me, March is 3 months away. So here we go again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good
Thank you.
job.
Do we have a firm date in March when they will be back, or is that a moving target?
It's a moving target. It'll be sometime in March.
31 days of it.
It moves like the grade.
But I want to ask this because I know I'm going to be asked this. So Southern Shores is not going to pay any more for this to be done.
There's no, the project, the budget that's in place now, including the contingency, will cover the cost of this sand. So there'll be no additional money coming from the town for this.
Good job.
Thank you for your help. too.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to say,
All three of you.
he's thanking
Excellent,
me and Matt, but I want to express my sincere gratitude for all of Cliff's tenaciousness about making sure we weren't going to get shorted. And yeah, so it took a team effort. Matt was our numbers guy, and he did a great job with the numbers. And I think we're going to come out, on the good end of this. And that's what we all wanted to work to do. And that's where we wanted to end up.
Achieved our objective.
So if anybody has follow-up questions or whatever, if you're listening, just send Cliff an email or send us an email and we'll respond. We haven't heard anything lately from everyone, but it's been holidays. But if you have any lingering questions, please sure and contact one of us. We'll get you the answer that you're looking for. Anything else?
Just thank you, Cliff, because he did a lot too. He's given us some praise, but
Yeah.
there's several weeks there. It was day in and day out. So
Yeah.
appreciate the work.
Indeed. Okay. Any questions about anything else for Cliff right now? No. Okay. So moving on to Philip, our town attorney. Good evening, Philip, and happy
Good
2023
evening,
to
Happy
you.
New Year to everyone. I don't have anything to report except that the oral arguments took place on the Fourth Circuit about the Mid-County Bridge, and I learned a long time ago not to read juries or judges by what was said or what was not said. But the questions that were posed, my partner listened to the whole argument. I know Ms. Sherlock also listened to it, and there were a lot of good questions asked that allowed our lawyers to say things that were helpful. And I'll leave it at that.
Very good. Thanks, Philip. All right. It's now time for general public comments. Did we have anybody sign up? Okay. Even if you didn't sign up, if you would like to have your time at the podium, okay. We don't have any old business, so we're going to move on to new business. And we have a couple of public hearings, so I'm going to be handing it over to Philip for public hearing on the special use permit 22-01 submitted by the Timmons Group on behalf of Fire Service Real Estate. Take it away, Philip. Thank you.
We will now open the hearing on the merits of SUP 2201, a special use permit application submitted by the Timmons Group on behalf of Fire Service Real Estate, Inc. to construct a new EMS fire station at 28 East Dogwood Trail. All persons who expect to give testimony during the hearing today, please step forward. You can stand wherever you are, just raise your hand. That would include staff and anyone else. Everyone will just be sworn by our clerk.
Do you swear affirm that the evidence you shall give to this board in this action shall be the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
The evidence you're hearing is now open. Town staff may move forward with their case, and please have your witness testify.
Thank you, sir. And good evening again, council. Since this is quasi judicial, I'm going to read the staff report into the record. You all are given this in your packets.
Would you please first state your name for the record as well?
Wes Haskett. Yes, sir. Thank you. The applicant for this application, SUP 2201, is the Timmons Group, Kim Hamby. The property owner of Fire Service Real Estate Incorporated. And as pointed out, this is a special use permit application to construct a new EMS fire station at 28 East Dogwood Trail. The existing zoning of the property is R1 low density residential, and this existing land use as determined by the town's currently adopted land use plan is residential. With respect to the surrounding land use and zoning, it is all residential, zoned RS1 single family residential district. The physical characteristics of the property is that it's developed and it is an existing EMS fire station. Applicable regulations from the town zoning ordinance are Article 3, Article 4, Article 6, Article 7, and Article 10. In staff's analysis, we bring the following. The applicant seeks a special use permit to construct an 8,756 square foot EMS fire station at 28 East Dogwood Trail. Parking for the proposed EMS fire station is shown on site as well as in the town right-of-way along East Dogwood Trail, The site plan also shows a 10-foot wide landscape buffer along the northern and eastern property lines. This was discussed with the planning board at their March 21, 2022 planning board meeting. The applicable lot coverage requirement for fire stations in the R1 district is 85%, and the site plan shows a proposed total of 68.9%. There are no lights shown on the proposed plans. There are 2 permanent signs shown at a total of 46.9 square feet. And there's one approximately 4 foot tall, 6 square foot temporary sign that would be posted during the demolition and construction process. The planning board granted a variance on December 1, 2022 to allow stormwater in the drainage area that contains the concrete apron off of East Dogwood Trail to be collected and stored in the retention area located at 29 East Dogwood Trail as it is today. That is owned town property, and that area is a retention area to collect the water from East Dogwood Trail, also from the fire station. Fire stations, EMS stations are permitted use in the R1 low-density residential district, provided that a special use permit is granted by the town council, following a recommendation made by the town planning board. In granting any special use permit, the board may recommend appropriate conditions and safeguards in conformity with Article 10, Administration and Enforcement. Before granting any special use permit, the town shall make affirmative findings that A, the applicant has met the requirements of the applicable provisions of the town chapter pertaining to zoning, subdivision chapter, and all other applicable ordinances. B, that the use as proposed will conform with the town's land use plan and will be compatible with the area which it is to be located if developed in accordance with the conditions specified in the chapter and additionally required by the town council as authorized by the chapter. C, that the use will not materially endanger the public health and safety if located where proposed and developed according to the plan submitted. And lastly, D, that the use as proposed will not overburden the town volunteer fire department, firefighting capabilities, and the county water supply capacity to the town, as said facilities and capabilities will exist on the completion date of the special use for which the application is made. Lastly, with respect to a recommendation, the land use plan identifies this area as residential in the R1 low-density residential district, which is consistent with the improvements proposed in the application. All applicable regulations in the zoning ordinance and all of staff's concerns that apply to this application have been identified or are addressed in the recommended conditions that I'm about to go over. Town staff recommends conditional approval of the application, and the town planning board recommended conditional approval of the application at the December 19, 2022 planning board meeting with the following conditions. Number one, the following permit shall be issued prior to submittal of a building permit application, which is an improvement permit and authorization to construct a new wastewater collection, treatment, and disposal system as issued by the Dare County Health Department. Number two, a lighting plan shall be submitted with the building permit and zoning permit application. Number three was with respect to signage. The previous site plan was in excess of what was allowed. They have revised the plan. The plan that was included with your packets now meets that requirement. So we are no longer recommending that condition number three. It has been satisfied. So the third condition we are recommending tonight would be that the applicant, number four, must strictly abide by all the requirements of the town code. It must also strictly comply with all other applicable local, state, and federal requirements. That concludes my staff report, Mr. Phillip.
Thank you, sir. Does any member of council have any questions for Mr. Haskell? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We'll now hear a presentation of evidence from the applicant or any of their representatives. Please state your name, ma'am.
Good evening. I'm Kim Hamby with Timmons Group. I am the civil engineer for the project. I'm happy to present this to you tonight. I know we've all seen it coming. This project is to replace the existing EMS and fire station that currently exists on the site at the corner of Highway 12 and East Dogwood Trail. In the development of this new facility, we are going to provide some improved parking for visitors along Dogwood Trail, as well as all the necessary parking for the staff. Configuration of that parking and building is going to be very similar to what it currently is, but we've tried to make it better. There will be a new septic system that has been approved. I have neglected to provide that permit copy to Wes at this time, but I do have that in hand and we'll get that to him. As stated, we did have to request a variance from stormwater requirements. We have met the requirements to store or treat the 1.5-inch runoff from all of the site except for the small portion of the apron from actually from the overhang limits of the building out to the street. We requested that variance because of the steep slope of that apron. It was just not practical to be able to capture that in any way. Overall coverage on the site is slightly less than it was previously. So we do feel that we are drastically improving the stormwater situation for this site. That's my presentation, but I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Ms. Hamby. Do any of the members of the council have any questions for Ms. Hamby?
Will there be an entrance to the parking lot from Duck Road now?
The entrance to the main parking lot is going to be from Duck Road.
That'll be new.
There will be just a couple of parallel spaces on East Dogwood.
Okay. And that's close to the light there.
Yes.
I'm guessing North Carolina Department of Transportation looked at that, or?
In this case, it is an existing condition.
Okay.
It would be a little more difficult if we were doing this from scratch. But yes, DOT typically honors existing curb cuts, especially when there's not a change in use.
At the planning board, there was some discussion about the storage shed there. What's the status of that?
Yes, sir. I finally today got confirmation that the storage shed, it's existing, it's in fairly good condition. It appears to be fairly new. That is not actually owned by fire services or the county. It is part of Ocean Rescue, and they have been allowed to keep that on the site to store their equipment. They are actually going to use the same building. It will be moved out of the way for construction and then replaced in the same location.
Okay. Then the other question I've got, when I look at the front elevation, I see like there's 4 bays there. But then when I go around to the back and look at the rear elevation, then there's only 2. So there's only going to be 2 drive-throughs?
Correct. The way this is set up, and this has been a fairly common thing, I've been working on several of these now, just due to the limited space, trying to turn a fire truck into the back of the building to pull it through is just not practical with the space provided. So the EMS vehicles will be able to enter the parking lot off of Duck Road and pull through. The fire trucks, after they've returned from an event, they will have to back in off of East Dogwood Trail.
And we'll have 2, that's 2 trucks will be there? Is that?
Yes.
The only question I have, or concern, I guess, is that with them coming back 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning with the backup alarm when they're backing up, I would think some neighbors might be awakened. Has there been any
Would
thought?
expect that to be a possibility.
Well, I know 2 are here.
I certainly hope that overall this is going to be seen as a major improvement.
Oh, I understand that, but there's always that little element of somebody, of that being a concern. Okay.
I just wanted to ask, and maybe I should have asked when Wes was up, so excuse me for doing it now. What is the plan for fire service, EMS service, and ocean rescue during the time where demolition and then construction of the building is going to take place?
I honestly do not know.
Okay.
I can't
Wes is
answer
still
that.
under oath if he wants to answer that question.
Thank you, Wes.
EMS services, the chief spoke with me probably over a month ago, and she said that they would be temporarily locating their equipment, vehicles off at a site, a commercially zoned site off of Juniper Trail. Fire service real estate, I'm not sure what the fire department, what they plan to do there.
It's going to be the end.
Juniper.
Yeah, it's the end of Juniper.
Juniper behind town, with the town bank owned building is what
Yes.
I was told.
That group in
Oh,
there.
Town Bank, okay. All right.
Not the main bank on the
Right.
corner,
Those
but the
buildings
building they
behind
own
The building
behind it.
behind there, yeah.
That was what they had, that's what they were looking at the time when she spoke with me.
Okay.
And then Surf Rescue, either if Merrick can't keep the shed on the site during construction and demolition, he owns property off of NC 12 that he could temporarily locate his shed there. And then he still would have access at Hillcrest to get from the shed to the beach.
There aren't any fire trucks up there now, are there?
I'll have to defer to Chief
Chief,
Limbacher.
if you want to give evidence, can you come up to the podium?
If you just raise your hand, be sworn
Okay.
So you can answer that.
and then you can answer from right there.
Oh.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you shall give to this board in this action shall be the truth and the whole truth?
Thank you.
The only equipment back up there for the fire department is the rehab truck, and then also there's a 5-ton police vehicle over there. The rehab truck we moved to the current headquarters on 15 South Dogwood across from the school. And as far as I know, I'll work it out with the chief and John where the 5 tons are gonna go. So.
Okay.
Really won't affect our operations other than putting the rehab people in the main building, that's all.
So after it's constructed, will those two same vehicles go back up there? Is that the
Yes.
thought?
Yes.
So there'll be no beepers for a while?
At
At
2
2 a.m.
a.m. over there, just, we haven't staffed that station in probably 15, 20 years. So.
Right.
Okay.
So there's a reprieve,
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
And I think at the planning board, you answered this question too, but the timeline from start of demo to completing the construction, just a ballpark time.
I'll be honest,
Estimate.
I have not, they do have a construction manager at risk. They already have a construction team that is in the process of getting all of their sub-consultant bids. I have not been involved in that, but I would expect it to be about a year-long process.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Hamby?
Nope.
Thank you, Ms. Hamby.
Thank you.
No one has signed up, but if there are any members of the public who would like to provide evidence, raise your hand. At this point, if there are no further questions, if any of the witnesses that have been sworn, we'll close the evidence. And I'll remind the council that if any of you have any questions as you all deliberate, you can always ask them at that point, but at this point, turn it over to the members of the council. We're now in the deliberative phase of the meeting. Does anyone have a motion to grant, deny, or grant with conditions?
So moved.
I think the motion is to approve special use permit 2201 with recommended conditions 1, 2, and 4.
Right.
So we have a motion. We have a second. Is there any further discussion or questions at this time, council? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Next, we have another public hearing. TCA 2204, I'll hand it over to our attorney again, Philip.
Thank you. I now open the public hearing for TCA 22-04 Town Code Amendment application submitted by the Town of Southern Shores to add Town Code Section 1-3 conflicts of interest. And I again call Mr. Haskett to the podium.
Thank you, sir. Good evening one last time, council. I'm not going to go through the whole staff report. This is another request as a result of Chapter 160D, North Carolina General Statutes 160D. In this case, we are requesting to add a new section to Chapter 1. It would be a new Section 1-13. And essentially, it creates conflict of interest requirements for town council, yourselves, planning board, historic landmarks commission, and town staff, and any other advisory boards that you all may appoint in the future. And for those groups and for town staff, there basically says you can't have a direct, substantial, and readily identifiable financial impact on the matter or on the member if participating in a vote. It also addressed, that's for legislative, it also addressed quasi-judicial decisions so that a member won't violate the affected person's constitutional rights to an impartial decision maker. This language came directly from the statutes. There are no changes. It word for word taken from the statute. So the planning board considered this application December 19th, and they recommended approval of it. And town staff recommends approval of it as well. And if y'all have any questions, I can try to answer them.
And currently, there is no language in our ordinances addressing conflict of interest, correct?
That's correct. Yes,
So this
ma'am.
will
And
sort of fill a gap that currently exists.
right. And 160D, what it did was it said that municipalities and counties had to adopt, whether by ordinance or by policy or some other document, conflicts of interest. And I thought it'd be easiest to put it into chapter 1 of our town code.
Is the definition of town staff all employees of the town?
I would assume so, yes, sir. Being an employee, the statute does not provide a definition of town staff. But the language refers to administrative staff. It says administrative staff. It doesn't say town staff, but a staff member.
I'm not splitting hairs, I just.
No, but I would,
No,
the common sense approach is
Yeah.
town staff who would actually participate in these decisions. Patrolman may technically be an employee, but if he's not participating in the decisions, he would apply.
Yes, correct. Yes, that's right.
Well, I have to say, I was not aware that there was not a conflict of interest. So I think this is a good policy to adopt.
Well, we have, we all took oaths prior to your election, prior to my employment, to follow, ethically and morally, pretty much what this says. But the legislature wanted to make sure that this was put into a local government's
Put in
document.
writing.
Good idea.
You find it in writing.
Right.
Very good.
Do you need a motion?
I know we have to close the
We
hearing.
haven't closed the hearing yet.
Any other questions? We now close the public hearing. Entertain any motions.
Thank you, Philip. Council, motion to approve TCA 2204? In a second?
Second.
Any further discussion, questions, issues?
MRA.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, staff, very much for taking care of this for us. Next, we have page 33 of your books, Council, the biennium legislative goals. I think Cliff is going to talk to us about this.
So every 2 years, the League of Municipalities asks the member organizations to vote on the legislative policies for 2-year periods. And we're looking at 2023 and 2024. There's a legislative policy committee that takes in all these requests. This year, there were over 400 ideas from 148 individuals representing 111 municipalities. And they were all whittled down into 16 goals. The board, which the mayor's represents District 1 on the League of Municipalities board, it's referred to them, and then they kind of vet it and bless it. And now you're asked to delegate someone to vote for 10 of those 16 goals. And those goals will be what the league will advocate for moving forward. There are things like increased funding for broadband infrastructure, water and sewer. There's goals and initiatives to try and increase water and sewer capacity, to try and make it easier for volunteer annexation, things that are just what you would think a town would want to advocate for. So you're being asked to delegate one person to vote on 10 of those 16.
Very good. I'd like to nominate our town manager, Cliff Ogburn.
Second.
Any objections?
Nope.
No.
That's it. We're done by consensus. Thank you, Cliff. But while you're up there,
We just loaded your plate again.
I know you wanted to pass on, but yeah, I know. I beat you to it, Leah. While you're there, if you don't mind, I know we have someone in our audience this evening who is interested in the Trinity Culvert Replacement Project, and just a question of, are we expecting to hear something back from Kinley Horn at the February meeting?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Actually, today there were a list of questions that Kimley Horn had so they could put together their scope, funding, where's it going to come from, who's going to review things, and that sort of thing. One of the things they asked for was citizen input, and we made sure to tell them that there are four neighbors on the four corners of that culvert that need to weigh in on this, and so that's going to be part of the scope. But our plan is to come back in February to bring you hopefully a contract to enter into with Kimley Horn to start the project.
Great.
I'd hope to have better answers to the questions you asked me last about the timeline and how long the road will be closed, but I'll have those in February.
Okay, very good. Thanks. Appreciate it. And thanks for taking that out of order. Next, we have general public comment. Anybody sign up? Anybody want to talk? Even if you didn't sign up? Okay. Now we move on to council business. Our next meeting, we don't know if we're having a second meeting in January. At this time, we don't have
Don't
one.
anticipate it.
Need one? Okay. So that means our next meeting will be in February, whenever that first, no, wait a minute. Does it get affected by some kind of holiday? So what's the date?
February.
February 7th.
It's in the back here. Yeah.
No, we got 20.
Print it out. Last time.
All right.
Oh, wow.
Tuesday, February the 7th. If I got the right year? Yes. Okay. All right. And so that's that. And so individual council comments. Mayor Pro Tem Matt Neal, would you like to start?
Nope. Just welcome back. You're on vacation.
Very good. Paula?
No particular comments, but anyway, hope everybody has a great new year, and I think Southern Shores is off to a good start.
Leo?
Well, I do have an update on occupancy. Somebody's going to give something. Some of you may have read in The Voice. When we had our meeting, the county had not provided all the information. And if you read the comments from Lee in there, we're starting to see a softening of maybe the tourism trade here. Occupancy collections for October was 43,568,000, which is off about 50% or 0.5%. Current year to date, although it's up 5.9. The meals collection, again, is for October was off 35%. And current year to date is up 3.35. And the only group that we monitor that had increases was the property management. All the rest had shown declines. So don't know if we're going to see what kind of adjustment, but the dollars have always looked pretty good, but it's the volume now that's starting to, of people, because there's been price increases. And of course, already the property managed groups have pretty much got 23 behind them, and they're looking at 24. And as part of our meeting, Elizabeth, you already got one, so if you pass those
Yes.
two down. It's a state of Adair County tourism, and it's a kind of 2022 at a glance. You can see what the visitor spending was, where we rank as a state, and the tourist related jobs, with the tax savings per person in Dare County, resident in Dare County is $3,930, which if we didn't have the tourism, we'd all be paying a little more. But the rest of it, I'm not going to go into. It talks about the tourism board, who the tourism board members are, occupancy and meal collections, various events at the event site, the update on the event center, restricted funds, the initiatives of long-range tourism management plan, the careers beyond the counter, 2023 campaign launch. So some good reading, some good information, what's happening in the Dare County tourism world, because that is our industry. We don't have a manufacturing base. So even though it causes us headaches, we'd be in trouble if we didn't have it. So that's what we had, and we'll have our meeting again in January, and we'll be bringing about, I think, 4 new people onto the board. And that's all I got.
Is there
Thanks,
any, over Thanksgiving, a couple of the rental companies were running 10% discounts for all of 2023.
Yeah.
To me, that's not a good sign.
Well, it depends.
Or the prices are pretty high.
Well, it's the price.
Yeah.
That, it sounds like I'm giving 10% off, but it's probably getting back to a price which was 2019.
Yeah.
So, and that's the issue that's been a concern of the board is the property management group. They
Keep raising the price.
And the unfortunate thing is, there, as somebody pointed out in our meeting, there's those that did and those that didn't, and now there's trying to get a balance in there. And the thing about it is, once it goes up, it very seldom comes back down other than through a discount process, like you just asked.
Still doesn't affect collections that much.
No.
Yeah.
Mark, do you have anything for us tonight?
No.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, I don't think I have, I think I got all the questions I want. Oh, I will say, I hope to do some beach grass planting when we have beach grass again, and I hope to be there at some point. Maybe not Thursday, but at some point. Hope to plant some beach grass. And if you want to plant some beach grass, Len Schmitz is the guy you need to get up with, and the information is in our town newsletter, email newsletter. The information is in the SSCA newsletters and so forth and so on. I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn, Council.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is approved. Thank you.